in order to keep things sane, we're going to deploy this project from scratch. So by that, I mean that I don't have anything set up on my computer right now, not the AWS command line interface, not Terraform, so none of it. Now, I'm doing it like this because, well, I go nuts when documentation and tooling assume that, I've done everything and know everything. Now, because of this, for some of you, it'll be a bit simplistic. If you have the AWS command line interface installed, if you know how to set up a proper IAM user and provision an SSL certificate, well, feel free to skip through. I'll try and keep these videos bite-sized for time and so that you can skip through the parts that you do know. The one thing, though, is that if you are an advanced AWS user, note that you do need to do everything in the same region. If that doesn't make any sense to you, well, don't worry, we're going to go through it. But first, let's talk about what we need to do. Even though I'd love for everything to be automated, due to the nature of encryption keys, SSL, TLS certificates, and domain name registration, well, we have to do some manual work. However, once we do get all of those things in place, we'll just run a command and we'll be good to go. So what do we need up front? Well, we'll have some things that need to be installed on your computer and some things that you need just in general. So first up, what do we need installed? Well, the AWS command line interface and Terraform. So nothing too bad, but again, if you've never done it or just need a refresher, we're going to cover both of those. On the other hand, if you've got that done, well, you'll be able to skip those videos. The only other thing you should have is the SSH agent installed, but that's pretty much default on most machines, and I would be completely shocked if your machine doesn't have that on it. But on top of that, beyond having stuff installed on your computer, there are a few other things. Now, none of these other things are difficult to get, but they're not exactly something you do every day. So let's take a look at those. First up, you need a domain name, so that shouldn't be any problem. And it doesn't have to be one on AWS. It can be anywhere. Now, I'll be using one on AWS. However, any domain name registrar works just fine. You just need to be able to access your DNS records to add a CNAME. I don't think I've ever heard of a registrar that doesn't make that available, so it should be pretty straightforward. Now, we are covering a lot of things, but we aren't going to cover purchasing the domain name, so you'll need to do that independently. The next thing is an AWS account. So we also won't be covering how to sign up and create a new AWS account, so you'll have to do this yourself. But don't worry, it's super easy, and you'll also get a full year of the free tier. So that's something that shouldn't take you any more than a handful of minutes. Now, the final three things we are going to do. The third thing is an IAM user. So IAM is AWS's Identity and Access Management Service. So we'll make a user in it to specifically handle the deploy. And it's also how we'll give our AWS command line interface credentials to work with Terraform. The fourth thing is an SSL TLS certificate. No, don't check out just yet. I know generating and clearing these is usually a multi-step process. However, we're going to be using the AWS Certificate Manager, which will let us get it done really without any hassle at all. The fifth and final thing is an EC2 key pair. So this is just an SSH key that we'll keep handy just in case we ever want to dive into the Vault servers themselves. While we don't need it for deployment or using Vault, it's good to keep around just in case. So these final three things we are going to cover. We're going to cover the installation of Terraform and the AWS command line interface, and these last three things, the IAM user, certificate, and the EC2 key pair. And don't worry, they are not hard. They're not. It's a lot of small things, but nothing about it is beyond your reach. They're quite simple. But again, they may not be something that you do often, or maybe you just never done them before, so we're going to cover them.